Breaking news, as I predicted, President Donald Trump just said on Newsmax, no pardon for Diddy. He said no.
You mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. You know.
It's a girl, not a man.
How's your father going so far?
How's he holding up right now, man?
He's good.
Huh?
He's good.
He's good.
Hey, it took a lot to for him to apologize, right?
Stop in the coop on the way.
How's your dad going so far, man? He's okay?
No. I don't think Maggie's out there.
I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
So Trump has the opportunity to pardon Diddy. Should Diddy be pardoned or should he stay in jail?
That guy needs to spend the rest of his life in Hepsi, broski. If that man ever sees freedom, you already know it's corrupt.
John Diddy Combs,
Right.
would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something, but he was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great, and seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
And it's hard, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So I don't know, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs?
I would say so.
A very strict and focused businesswoman, because working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect.
Working for Diddy?
Absolutely.
I love Diddy. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that question.
Oh, wow. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up.
So this was back in 2020. It was October of 2020 during the 2020 presidential election. And this was a few months after Diddy had said the whole hold your vote thing. Let's take a listen to Diddy on white men needing to be banished.
White men like Trump need to be banished. That way of thinking is real dangerous. This man literally threatened the lives of us and our families about going to vote.
Stand back and stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Yeah.
We're in a war. We're not taking this like it's a war. We're taking this like, we're in a presidential election. No, we're in a war of love versus hate. The number one priority is to get Trump out of office.
Oh yeah, he's not getting pardoned.
Trump need to be banished. Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. That's why this message is not just to black people. You know what I'm saying? This message is to everybody. This man is really trying to turn us against each other and put us in a situation.
Forget political alliances. This just got personal. In a move nobody saw coming, Donald Trump went on Newsmax and all but slammed the door on pardoning Sean Diddy Combs. The man who once called Diddy a good friend is now acting like they barely shared a room, and Diddy's sons are livid. They're not just venting, they're pulling receipts, dragging up history, and hinting that Trump's decision might have less to do with justice and more to do with protecting himself. This isn't just celebrity drama. It's a ticking political time bomb that could blow up before Diddy's October sentencing. Donald Trump didn't just close the door on Sean Diddy Combs, he slammed it, locked it, and threw away the key. In a recent Newsmax interview, the former president casually brushed off the idea of granting Diddy a pardon, telling the host it was more likely a no. And he didn't stop there. Trump made it clear that personal history, and not just legal facts, was clouding his judgment. He was very hostile when I ran for office, Trump said, hinting that Diddy's public criticism during the 2020 election was still fresh in his mind. To most politicians, that might be a minor grudge. But to Diddy's family, it was a clear sign that this wasn't about law, justice, or presidential duty. This was about payback. Within hours of the clip hitting social media, Diddy's sons, Justin and Christian Combs, let their feelings be known. They didn't tag Trump directly, but their posts dripped with sarcasm and frustration. Christian dropped a cryptic one-liner about thinking loyalty was real, while Justin posted a pointed reminder that some people only remember the bad you said about them, but conveniently forget the times you helped put them on. It was subtle, but the message was unmistakable. Trump was rewriting history and abandoning their father when it mattered most. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Diddy is staring down the kind of sentencing that can change the rest of his life. After being found guilty on 2 federal counts tied to his New York sex trafficking scandal, but acquitted on the most serious RICO and trafficking charges, he's still facing up to 20 years in federal prison. Sentencing is set for October 3rd, just weeks away. For Diddy, a presidential pardon could mean walking out of prison as a free man instead of spending the next 2 decades behind bars. For Trump, the decision could either cement a reputation as a man who stands by his old friends, or confirm that loyalty only lasts as long as it's politically convenient. And as both camps dig in, the countdown clock is already ticking. Long before the mugshots, indictments, and courtroom drama, Donald Trump and Sean Diddy Combs moved through the same rarefied air. This wasn't some casual, met-him-once acquaintance. Their circles overlapped for decades. Picture late 90s Manhattan, Diddy at the height of his Bad Boy Records empire, Trump in his Golden Tower phase, both fixtures at black-tie charity galas and Hampton summer parties. They'd rub elbows at exclusive fundraisers, golf tournaments, and fashion events where the champagne never stopped flowing. By the early 2000s, their friendship wasn't just social, it was public. In 2012, Trump went on record calling Diddy a good friend during a TV interview, defending him when critics took shots. Even on The Apprentice, Trump took up for Diddy, famously telling contestant Aubrey O'Day that he was a good guy and someone worth sticking up for. Back then, it was all mutual respect, photo ops, and the unspoken bond of 2 men who understood the game of power and image. But somewhere between then and now, the champagne turned to vinegar. The real turning point came in 2020. Diddy, who had already been flirting with political influence for years, openly threw his weight behind Joe Biden in the presidential race. And he didn't just endorse him quietly. In interviews, including a fiery appearance on The Breakfast Club, Diddy labeled Trump dangerous, accused him of threatening the lives of black Americans, and even said white men like Trump need to be banished. For a man like Trump, who thrives on loyalty and public flattery, that wasn't just a disagreement, it was war. From that moment on, the warmth evaporated. The smiles in old photos looked like they belonged to strangers. Trump never publicly retaliated in the heat of the 2020 campaign, but insiders say the sting lingered. And now, with Diddy's freedom hanging in the balance, Trump's more likely a no on Newsmax sounds less like a policy stance and more like an old grudge finally getting its revenge. What was once a decades-long friendship built on high society glamour has curdled into a cold political calculation, and Diddy's sons see it as nothing short of betrayal. The whispers started quietly, almost like a rumor you'd overhear at a cigar lounge in D.C. or a penthouse cocktail party in Miami. Not long after Diddy's partial guilty verdict, conversations about a possible presidential pardon began making their way through certain political back channels. At first, it sounded almost absurd. Why would Donald Trump, a man who thrives on playing to his base, even consider stepping in for a celebrity entangled in a trafficking scandal? But the idea wasn't coming from thin air. According to sources close to both camps, there were people in Diddy's orbit actively reaching out to Trump's inner circle, framing the legal battle as overreach by the justice system and painting Diddy as a victim of political and media bias. The earliest signals came from inside the West Wing itself. One staffer, speaking on condition of anonymity, claimed that the topic was floated in a private meeting, not as a formal request, but as a hypothetical scenario worth exploring. The reasoning? Trump had history with Diddy, and a well-timed act of clemency could send a strong message about loyalty. The same staffer hinted that a comprehensive get-out-of-jail-free card was drafted in principle, just in case the president decided to pull the trigger. Behind the scenes, lobbying efforts reportedly kicked into gear. Diddy's allies, from entertainment lawyers to influential political donors, were said to be making calls, testing the waters, and gauging Trump's appetite for the move. The tone was cautiously optimistic. In early conversations, Trump didn't shut the idea down outright. In fact, when first asked about it in an Oval Office interview months prior, he had struck a measured tone, saying he'd look at the facts and implying that whether someone liked him or not wouldn't necessarily influence his decision. But then, almost without warning, the mood shifted. By mid-July, Trump went on Newsmax and sounded like a man who had already made up his mind. "It's more likely a no," he said, citing Diddy's hostile comments during the 2020 election as something that makes it more difficult to act. It was a public pivot so sharp it left insiders scrambling. One source close to the situation described it as a freeze-out overnight, saying that whatever momentum the pardon talks had built was suddenly iced over. That abrupt change raised the obvious question: what happened between the quiet White House conversations and Trump's very public shutdown? Was it political pressure from his base? A reminder of Diddy's scathing past remarks? Or did someone in Trump's orbit warn him that granting clemency could open a Pandora's box of unwanted scrutiny? Whatever the reason, the backroom optimism that once surrounded the possibility of a pardon evaporated, replaced by a cold, calculated distance. And for Diddy's family, that wasn't just a no. It was a betrayal dressed up as presidential discretion. If Trump thought his more likely a no comment would fade quietly into the news cycle, he clearly underestimated the Combs family's ability to keep the fire burning. Within hours, Diddy's sons, Justin and Christian, were on social media delivering their own brand of subtle but unmistakable clapback. They didn't drop Trump's name. They didn't need to. Christian posted a stark, almost poetic line about thinking loyalty was real and realizing it wasn't, while Justin shared a longer message about how some people only remember the bad you said about them, but forget the times you put them on and rode for them. The posts were raw, the timing was deliberate, and every follower knew exactly who they were talking about. The brothers weren't just venting. They were reframing Trump's decision as betrayal. Not politics, not strategy, but personal. It was a public way of saying, "We see you choosing your pride over our father's freedom." Their words resonated because this wasn't the polished PR spin of attorneys or spokespersons. It was the sting of two sons watching the man who could save their father decide it wasn't worth it. And then, as if on cue, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson jumped into the conversation. And you know Fifth never misses an opportunity to stir the pot. He's been trolling Diddy for months, throwing shade at every twist in the case. And Trump's comments gave him fresh ammo. On Instagram, 50 didn't just say he was against a pardon. He made it personal, posting that he planned to reach out to Trump so he knows how I feel about this guy. Then he went digging. Out came old clips of Diddy from 2016 and 2020, speaking out against Trump, calling him dangerous, warning about race wars, and telling the Breakfast Club that white men like Trump need to be banished. The subtext was clear. Why would you pardon someone who said this about you? It was petty politics at its finest. And 50 knew exactly how to frame it so Trump's base would see Diddy as undeserving of clemency. But just when the internet thought it had seen the peak of the drama, Marion Shug, night dialed in from prison. Literally. Calling into a podcast from behind bars, the former death row mogul casually dropped his own 2 cents. He wouldn't be surprised if Trump ended up pardoning Diddy anyway. His reasoning? The two moved in the same elite nightlife circles back in the day, hitting the same exclusive parties and high-end venues. Suge's tone was almost conspiratorial, as if to say, these guys have more in common than they admit. That one comment lit up the rumor mill all over again, with some speculating that Suge might be hinting at stories he can't, or won't, tell on record. By the end of the week, the fight over Diddy's potential pardon wasn't just a political debate. It was a full-on receipts war playing out in real time. Diddy's sons were framing it as a betrayal of friendship. 50 Cent was trying to poison the well with Trump's voters, and Suge Knight was planting seeds of suspicion that the Trump-Diddy connection might run deeper than anyone realizes. And through it all, Trump stayed silent, letting the speculation swirl, maybe by design. The first time Trump International Hotel in D.C. was mentioned in Diddy's federal trafficking trial, the courtroom got noticeably quieter. It wasn't just another venue being named. It was a symbol, a place that, during Trump's presidency, had become a magnet for lobbyists, diplomats, and high-profile figures looking to curry favor. But according to new testimony, it was also a preferred backdrop for some of Diddy's most exclusive, and now, most infamous parties. A former event coordinator took the stand, detailing nights where A-list entertainers, political donors, and foreign business moguls flowed in and out of private suites at Trump's property. These weren't typical red carpet soirees. The witness claimed that certain after-hours gatherings had guest lists so tightly controlled that even hotel staff were kept out unless personally cleared by Diddy's people. Attendees allegedly included men of influence from both coasts, athletes, and what the witness carefully referred to as paid models. It was the kind of vague but loaded testimony that left the jury leaning forward and the defense team instantly objecting. That name drop set off alarm bells for more than just Diddy's lawyers. The overlap between Diddy's alleged activities and Trump's own past controversies suddenly looked uncomfortably close. For years, Trump had fought to distance himself from certain names and scandals. Most notoriously, Jeffrey Epstein's files, which had already been a political landmine. Now, here was a new thread connecting his own branded property to another high-profile case involving trafficking allegations. The speculation wasn't hard to fuel. In the days after the testimony, social media sleuths began piecing together old photos, party flyers, and leaked travel itineraries. Some showed Diddy in the Trump International lobby. Others hinted at mutual associates who moved in both Trump and Diddy circles. Even mainstream outlets started tiptoeing around the implication. If these events really took place on Trump's turf, what, if anything, did he know? And would granting Diddy a pardon open the door for reporters to start digging into both men's shared social past? One political strategist put it bluntly in an off-record conversation. The pardon is risky because it's not just about saving Diddy. It's about inviting people to retrace every night, every guest list, every security log from that hotel. In other words, the hotel connection wasn't just a casual mention. It was a breadcrumb trail leading toward the very overlap Trump has spent years trying to keep separate from his political brand. For Diddy's team, the testimony was a problem they couldn't ignore. For Trump, it was a flashing warning sign that any public move in Diddy's favor might resurrect the ghosts of scandals past, the kind that don't just trend on Twitter, but stay in the headlines for weeks. And with the sentencing clock ticking toward October, both men suddenly had more than just legal stakes to worry about. They had reputations and legacies dangling by a thread. For Donald Trump, the Diddy pardon question isn't just a legal decision. It's a political minefield. On paper, it's straightforward. Either sign the papers or don't. But in the reality of an election year, where every move is a headline and every headline is a weapon, the choice is loaded with consequences no matter which way he leans. If Trump were to grant the pardon, the backlash would be instant and merciless. His political opponents would frame it as proof that he protects rich predators while ignoring ordinary citizens facing similar charges. Editorials would scream about celebrity justice and the boys' club shielding its own. Even some of his loyal base, the ones already skeptical about Hollywood's moral compass, could see it as a betrayal of his tough-on-crime image. Add to that the uncomfortable connection to the Trump International Hotel testimony, and it's not just an act of mercy. It's an open invitation for the media to start combing through guest lists, photos, and security logs. On the flip side, denying the pardon comes with its own political poison. Trump and Diddy's history goes back decades, from charity galas in New York to public shout-outs on The Apprentice. To turn his back now could be painted as cold-blooded self-preservation, proof that Trump will toss even old friends under the bus if they become inconvenient. Diddy's sons have already laid the emotional groundwork on social media, framing Trump's hesitation as betrayal. If he delivers a flat-out no, expect those narratives to ramp up, painting him as a man who preaches loyalty but practices abandonment when the stakes get high. And then there's the middle ground, the non-committal dance Trump is already trying to play, publicly hinting more likely a no, give him an out without fully slamming the door, but it also keeps him in the conversation. That strategy comes with its own risk. Dragging the issue out keeps the media circus alive, forcing him to answer the same question over and over, each time with slightly more political wear and tear. One veteran political consultant described it as the perfect lose-lose scenario. Help Diddy and you become the face of elite favoritism. Refuse Diddy and you're the friend who sells you out when things get ugly. The irony? The only true win for Trump might be if some last-minute legal twist spares him from making the decision at all. But with the October sentencing looming like a ticking time bomb, that escape hatch is looking smaller by the day. For now, the trap is set, and no matter how carefully Trump tries to navigate it, one wrong step could turn a private dilemma into a public disaster, with the cameras rolling and the opposition grinning. The calendar has never felt louder. October 3rd, Diddy's sentencing date, isn't just a line on paper, it's a flashing red countdown clock for everyone involved. Each day that passes drags Trump closer to a moment he can't sidestep, spin, or delay. By the morning of that court appearance, he'll either be the man who stepped in or the man who let his old friend face the music alone. For Trump, the tension is unbearable and strategic all at once. His advisors are split down the middle, some urging him to play the loyalty card, reminding voters that he never abandons his friends. Others warning that a pardon for a man accused of trafficking and abuse would be political suicide in an election cycle already defined by law and order talking points. Every public rally, every media appearance, he knows the question could come up again, and one slip could lock him into a choice before he's ready to make it. Meanwhile, Diddy's camp isn't sitting quietly. His sons, still stung by Trump's more likely a no comment on Newsmax, have turned social media into a daily pressure campaign. Emotional throwback photos of Diddy and Trump from their Hampton summers, captions about loyalty and real friendship, and subtle digs about people switching up when the cameras are on are flooding timelines. They've been strategic, tagging celebrity allies, reposting messages from artists, athletes, and influencers who want to keep the heat on Trump's image as the clock ticks down. It's not just nostalgia. It's a calculated optics war. The more the public sees Diddy framed as a friend abandoned in his hour of need, the more political cost Trump pays for staying silent. And celebrities know the game. This isn't just about helping Diddy, it's about testing Trump's ability to stand firm under emotional public pressure. Every news cycle in August and September is a battle for narrative control. Trump's team tries to pivot to policy speeches, crime statistics, and campaign rallies. Diddy's sons keep pulling the conversation back to loyalty, brotherhood, and history. The tension is building like a political cliffhanger, with October 3rd looming as the season finale. Because on that day, cameras will be outside the courthouse, microphones will be in Trump's face, and whatever he decides, pardon, deny, or dodge, will instantly be the headline. There's no middle ground left when the clock runs out. And now, we're here, the edge of the cliff. The cameras are waiting. The countdown clock is almost at zero, and the question is hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Is this betrayal? Is this self-protection? Or is this a long game only Trump understands? Because if Donald Trump really is more likely a no, as he told Newsmax, then maybe this is just him cutting ties with a sinking ship before the election waves pull him under. But what if it's deeper than that? What if every hesitation, every vague soundbite, every smirk in an interview is him buying time? waiting for the right political moment to swoop in with a pardon that shocks both his critics and his base. That's the twist nobody wants to talk about. The possibility that Trump is holding this move like a high-stakes poker card, ready to play it only when the payoff is maximum. But here's the danger. If that card flips over, the receipts that follow could be bigger than anything we've seen so far. We're talking about names, dates, guest lists, phone calls, evidence from inside Trump International Hotel, old flight records, private event rosters, the kind of receipts that could rewrite the entire narrative. A pardon doesn't just close Diddy's case. It invites every unanswered question about who knew what, who was there, and what was covered up straight back into the spotlight. So, as October 3rd closes in, the tension isn't just about whether Trump will save an old friend or save himself. It's about whether pulling that lever could unlock a floodgate that drowns both of them in scandal. Because in this story, the truth isn't just hiding in the shadows. It's sitting in a file somewhere, waiting for the right moment to burn the whole stage down. And the only real question left is, when the cameras flash on sentencing day, will Donald Trump be the man who turned his back, or the man who lit the match?